Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Namo Aniruddhaya Hishikesha Indriyatmane Namaha Paramahamsaya Purnaya Nibhatatmane Swarga Pavarga Dwaraya Nityam Suchi Sade Namah Namah Hiranyaviryaya Chaturhotraya Tantave. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for joining us again this evening on Thursday, the 14th of May, and we are continuing the discussion on the Harinam, Sri Harinam Chintamani, which is a dialogue between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sriman Haridas Thakur, who is the Namacharya or the designated Acharya authority of the Yuga Dharma, which is a chanting of the holy names. Today's topic is about equating the chanting of the holy names with piety or pious activity. So first we need to learn the definition of the purpose of chanting the holy name. Without understanding the goal, without understanding the mood or the purpose with which someone is supposed to call upon the holy names, it would be meaningless to further engage in discussing the differences between the chanting of the holy names and material piety or piety which is ordinated in the Vedas, in the Karma Kanda section. So first and foremost, we will understand the actual definition of the purpose of chanting the holy names through the mood of Sriman Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. So we will first understand that, and then we would get into the process of being able to understand the difference between piety and the holy names. Now, in the Sikshashtakam prayers, Lord Chaitanya, he gave us 8 verses, but those 8 verses capture the entire essence of the process of bhakti and also the process of attaining prema bhakti through the process of chanting the holy names. Now, the verse which is given here from Sikshashtakam, Aslishlyavapada Ratam Pinastumam Adarshanan Marma Hatam Karotua Yata Tata Va Vidaddatu Tampato Matprananatastu Sayeva Naparaha. The translation is, I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Unconditionally is the word that needs to be underlined for us to understand the specific message which Srila Haridas Thakur is offering us through this particular chapter. The very specific message has to do with the word unconditional, no conditions. And Srila Rupa Goswami defined the conditions into 2 broad groups. He called one, right, Anya Abhilashita Shunyam, which is there should be no other objective, Anya Abhilashita, Shunyam, practically no other objective, Jnana Karmadi Anavritam, right? So the idea is that Rupa Goswami, who is our predominant acharya, we are Rupanugas, we follow in his footsteps in understanding how to serve Lord Chaitanya. He received instructions from Lord Chaitanya directly. So Srila Rupa Goswami is telling us that one should have absolutely no inclination for fruitive activities, karma kanda. Shuddha bhakti and fruitive activities are 2 different things. It is completely different. Jnana is also completely different. So jnana karmadi anavritam. What does this mean? It means that one cannot have objectives of bhukti, which is wanting to enjoy material opulences, or mukti, to be relieved of suffering in the material realm. Neither of these are objectives of pure devotional service. That is why Lord Chaitanya, when he is praying, he is saying, Krishna is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally, which means Krishna can do anything. It's unconditional surrender. This is the mood in which one is meant to chant, or at least one has to understand that this is optimum. This is where one has to be reaching through the process of being able to chant the holy names. For us to be able to call upon Krishna and for us to be able to tell him, Anya Bilashata Shunyam, Jnana Karma Dhyanavritam, Anukuliyena Krishna Anushilanam Bhakti Uttarma. We should be able to call upon him and also be able to tell Krishna in the mood that Krishna, I have absolutely no desires other than wanting to serve you. Okay? We should also be able to tell him that he can do anything he wants for us to be put on the right situation. Because Krishna knows what is holding us back. Krishna knows what is holding us back. He knows what we need. He knows what we need to be, what needs to be removed from our lives. He knows what needs to be given to us. Both of these, Krishna is fully conversant with. There's no confusion in Krishna's mind as to how to come fully into our lives. As a consequence, what we want to do is we want to be able to surrender completely. This is also the ultimate verse given in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vaja ma suchaha. He says, do not worry. Ma suchaha, do not fear. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vaja. Aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshayasmi ma suchaha. Do not worry. Ma suchaha, because we are worried. We hold back because we cannot make this statement standing in front of the spiritual master. We cannot make this statement standing in front of Krishna because we doubt of his ability to give us, relief, or rather, we are afraid that he might do things to us which could be very painful. In reality, we are so afraid of Krishna, and as a consequence, we cannot surrender. Fear and love are two sides of the same coin. Both cannot coexist at the same time. They cannot coexist. Either it's fear or it's love. So we are afraid that Krishna might take something away, which is very dear to us, or he might give us something which becomes very unpleasant or impossible for us to digest, impossible for us to process. We are afraid that Krishna will interfere with our lifestyle. We are afraid that he may not allow us to engage in bhakti, or rather experiencing material phenomena, or we are afraid that Krishna might allow us, or rather put us in a position where we might not have any relief, we might suffer. Our only suffering in reality is separation from Krishna. That is suffering. Or being connected to material activities that are not directly connected to Krishna is suffering. It is suffering. So those who are fully in touch with material energy, or the extent to which we are in touch with material energy, we suffer. The extent to which we have attachments, to that extent we will have pain. It's proportionate. It is not disproportionate, it is proportionate. The extent to which we have attachments, we will be given pain. The reason is because that's the nature of material law. Why? Because we are so closely in touch with material energy that we would experience the duality of material energy, which is that sometimes there is happiness, sometimes there is grief. Sometimes there's comfort, sometimes there's discomfort. Sometimes there's wealth, sometimes there's poverty, right? So all of these are dualities. The extent to which we experience all of these dualities is dependent on the extent to which we are in touch with material energy. So we are afraid of making out a prayer, literally, and coming out and telling Krishna that you do whatever you want. You do whatever you want. You know what I need. I only know what I want. You do whatever you want, so that I can come closer to you. So this particular verse, which Mahaprabhu is chanting in Shri Shikshashtakam, he is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. This is displayed by all advanced souls. It is displayed. If you recall, in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Uttara, the mother of Shri Parikshit Maharaj, when she realized that Ashwatthama, the son of Dronacharya, had fired the Brahmastra toward her womb, and as a consequence, the child was in grave danger. What did Uttara do? Uttara had many, many wonderful, very powerful Kshatriyas surrounding her. There were the 5 Pandavas, there were so many other personalities. But she did not even hesitate for a moment but to run to Krishna for help. Why do we call upon this as extraordinary? Let's go back and look at this. Uttara did not think that Krishna did not save my husband Abhimanyu. She didn't think that time. She did not think that Krishna could have saved Abhimanyu, but Krishna did not save Abhimanyu. So what's the point in approaching Krishna for help with my son, Parikshit? Why should I approach him? Because he didn't quite assist me then, right? What did she do? She ran to him. Why? And the reason is there is this acceptance in their hearts that Krishna, you are there, you have come into our lives, whatever you do is unconditionally acceptable because you will always remain my worshipful Lord. Always. You will always remain my worshipful Lord. The Pandavas did not reject Krishna after they lost all their children. They did not. They knew that if Krishna wanted, he could have protected. It is a saying that if Krishna wants to protect, no one can harm. If Krishna wants to harm, no one can protect. They knew that Krishna could have protected because he is omnipotent, he is omnipresent, he is omniscient, he is the Samambonam, he is the origin, he is the avatari. They knew all of this. But yet they accepted that this was a part of Krishna's plan. They did not reject Krishna, they continued taking deeper and deeper shelter of Krishna. How does this happen? This happens because they have completely understood the meaning of Anyabhilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anavratam, Anukuliyana Krishna Anushilanam, Bhakti Uttama. They are not rejecting Krishna because of either wanting to be relieved from suffering or wanting to be comforted and be given certain amount of enjoyment in the material sphere. They have absolutely no other objective other than wanting to surrender to him and wanting him, practically being in the mood of Brajavasis, isn't it? Where they have nothing but Krishna. That is the mood and that is the objective of chanting the holy names. Manmanabha Madbhakto Madhyajivam Namaskuru. Krishna says, always chant my name, glorify me, pay homage unto me. This particular condition is given in the Bhagavad Gita in 2 places. He is also talking about it, and after which he says, Sarvadharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. He says how it's to be done. He says, you cannot always think of me, you cannot offer homage unto me, you cannot always worship me unless you are surrendered. And that is the objective of Bhakti Yoga. Pure devotional service, Shuddha Bhakti, is performed with only one objective, and that objective is to be able to fully surrender. Okay? There's no other objective. It is fully surrender is the only objective of Bhakti Yoga. Full surrender essentially means that our whole life and our existence revolves around wanting to come closer to the objective of Prema Bhakti. Wanting to love Krishna as he is loved by the Vrajavasis. This is the only objective. Okay? So they have no other objective. Now compare this with piety. What happens in piety? In piety, rituals are performed for the purpose of being relieved from certain kind of suffering. Someone could have a health crisis. Rituals can be performed. That is piety. There's an objective to be able to perform the ritual. The objective, I want to be relieved from suffering. Or there is an objective that I want to be able to attain certain material benefits, such as wealth. Okay? There is a certain objective in performing the rituals of Karma Kanda. There's a certain objective in engaging in charity. There's a certain objective in being able to take a dip in the holy rivers for us to be relieved of sinful reactions, so that the sinful reactions, after they have been relieved and we accumulate sufficient piety, There's happiness in this world and happiness in the next. There's an objective here. Krishna is not the objective of pious activity. It is not. He is not. Krishna is the objective when there's bhakti. In pious activity, the objective is to attain something, either mukti, which is liberation from suffering, or bhukti, which is enjoyment. That is why Sri Rupa Goswami says, Anyabhilashit shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. And he's referring to karma, he is talking about karma kanda. When he's referring to jnana kanda, he's talking about being relieved of suffering. Because jnanis, their objective is to attain liberation. Karmis, their objective is to engage in fruitive activities so that their desires could be fulfilled. The objective of bhakti is to attain Krishna and to be able to render pure devotional service and unconditionally give him, give ourselves to him. This is the objective of Shuddha Bhakti. Now, there is a big difference between the two. Now, where is this warning coming from in Harinam Cintamani? Why is it that Srila Haridas Thakur is even bringing this up? Because materialistic people, including the Mayavadis, those who believe that everything in the material manifestation, including the transcendental form of the Lord, is Maya or illusory. They believe that the highest position which is to be seen by the Lord is his Brahman realization. They do not believe that his form, his body is transcendental. They do not accept his activities as transcendental. They treat his activities as material. They distinguish and think that he is under the modes. Lord Narasimha appears and he kills. But that is not under the material mode of ignorance. It is transcendental. Krishna kills Shishupal, transcendental. It is not under the material mode of ignorance where Krishna used the material mode of ignorance to kill. It is transcendental. Krishna is situated in complete transcendence at all times. He is transcendental. His activities are transcendental. That's why we talk about Janma Karma, Chame Divyam. So people who equate and do not understand Krishna's position, and we have to understand that when he appeared 5,000 years back, not many even understood his presence. Handful of people, the Pandavas, understood that he was a supreme person. Amongst the Kauravas, you could see Sri Bhishmadev understanding him to be the supreme person. Of course, Srila Vyasadeva understood that he was a supreme person. Not everybody else. So the point we want to make here is that Krishna is not fully understood even when he appears. Okay, even when he appears in his original form, he is not understood, and there's such confusion. What to say of confusion after he unmanifests or becomes unmanifest in our eyes from the material sphere. So the distinction between piety and devotional service is that devotional service has only one objective. Anya Abhilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anavritam, Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktir, Uttama. Uttama Bhakti is defined as zero desire, no Mishra. Mishra means mixed, nothing mixed, no Jnana, no karmakandic desires. Okay? Now comes the situation on how to live on this planet and practice Bhakti Yoga. If you must chant, the advice from here is chant only with the objective of being able to unconditionally offer yourself at Krishna's lotus feet someday. This unconditional surrender can also be experienced by serving the spiritual master, which is what Srila Prabhupada did. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave him an instruction. He said, write and preach in English. When Srila Prabhupada had 5 rupees in his pocket, he printed books. He used to walk great distances, have them printed, and then distributed them on the streets of Delhi, on Bombay, wherever he was. When he had 500, he did the same. When he had 500,000, he did the same. When he had millions, he did the same. He wrote, he printed books, and he distributed them. It is unconditional. Krishna arranged for passage for Srila Prabhupada. In the 1960s, airplanes were available. But Krishna arranged passage for Srila Prabhupada to travel by sea. Unconditional acceptance, even though at his advanced age, he suffered a lot during the sea journey. There were a lot of physical inconvenience, okay, so to speak. When he landed here, he didn't quite have the sattvic environment like Vrindavan or Mayapur. He had to live under circumstances which were very challenging for someone who was so pure. So advanced and so pure, it was very difficult for someone like him to live in a condition where you open the refrigerator and you find meat along with your vegetables. You cannot start thinking this is boga, this is this, this is that. Okay. He used to live practically, the devotees arranged the early times when the movement started, they arranged accommodation for him with, a so-called, person who was a drug addict. He got crazy one night and attacked Srila Prabhupada. And then after that, Srila Prabhupada used to sleep in someone's office and then used to go somewhere to have a bath, two different places. This was Srila Prabhupada when he arrived here first. This requires the mood of becoming unconditionally accepting that this is Krishna's desire. We challenge Krishna if we were to be put into such circumstances. Why are you doing this to me? Why can't you provide better facilities? Why couldn't I have traveled by airplane? Why should I come by ship? Why couldn't I have had 1,000 people waiting for me to receive me at the airport? Why should I have to travel and then live with people who do not understand me fully? Why do I have to put up with all this nonsense? None of this crossed his mind. He was simply focused in accepting the circumstances as Krishna's arrangement because he knew that Krishna loved him. There was no doubt in Srila Prabhupada's mind, or even for a moment, that his Guru and Krishna did not love him. They knew. He knew that Krishna loved him. So when he knew that Krishna loved him, what was the difficulty in accepting the circumstances as Krishna's arrangement? He knew that if Krishna loves me and he has made this arrangement, there must be a good reason. Because that particular arrangement which was made for Srila Prabhupada is now enthusing us after 40 years. After 45 years, 50 years, we are enthused. We are enthused after 50 years to hear about his circumstances, and we are trying to become motivated. Krishna had a reason for putting Prabhupada through whatever he had to be put through, because Srila Prabhupada had fully accepted Krishna loves me. Right? That is the purport of this verse, where he is saying that you can do anything to me. You can do anything to me. You will always remain my worshipful Lord. There will never ever be a situation where I would start thinking that Krishna, you were supposed to do something. You did not do your part. So from tomorrow, I'm not going to worship you. No. You will always remain my worshipful Lord, no matter what my struggle. You will always remain my worshipful Lord. That is the objective of chanting the holy names when we wake up in the morning, to be able to attain the state of consciousness where we would be able to accept our surroundings, accept everything as Krishna's arrangement at any given moment, and be able to move forward. Not the other way around. This does not mean inaction. This does not mean inefficiency. It does not mean neglect. It means being able to do whatever we can with the circumstances that are being imposed upon us, and understanding that these circumstances are karmic reactions that we carry from the past. But Krishna is being very merciful. He has given us consciousness for us to be able to process, accept these karmic reactions as his benediction. When we accept the circumstances that we are in as Krishna's benediction, when we accept that whatever is happening to us is purely being managed by someone who is an extraordinarily potent personality, he is Bhagavan, he loves us, why would we be worried? Where would be the need for any concern? Because now he is in charge. The circumstances are what we need. That is the acceptance of a pure devotee. That is the acceptance of the consciousness that one has to attain while we chant the holy names. One has to attain the consciousness that Krishna is making arrangements, and these arrangements are conducive for bhakti. Whatever arrangements Krishna makes for bhakti, we will accept it. We will accept the arrangements that he is making, because these are going to allow us to move forward. Okay? Now, unconditional surrender is that particular objective of being able to chant the holy names. Karma kanda, on the other hand, is to be relieved of suffering, or to attain something which we desire so that we could enjoy. Material piety has a definition of being able to enjoy. Krishna is not the objective of material piety. It is not. Now comes the question of us being on this planet, and we have not reached the stage where we can fully accept everything that is in our life as Krishna's arrangement. How do we manage our day-to-day affairs? What should we do? Do not chant with the objective of solving problems. Do not do that. Do not chant with the objective of solving day-to-day problems. You will fall into this particular offense. You will fall, or we will fall into this offense when we start thinking that I must chant and by this my problem will get solved. Do not do that. At least have the understanding, very clear understanding, that chanting is supposed to give us the ultimate result, which is Krishna himself. Let us not equate our objectives of wanting relief or wanting something which is missing or we think is missing. And that is the purpose of chanting, because it will slowly, our consciousness will slide into it. Okay? And I'm offering this to people who are being initiated, who have been instructed. We are not faithless. We are faithful. We have approached a spiritual master, or we are in the process of approaching a spiritual master. We have come in touch with Krishna in his various wonderful ways through the Sangha of devotees. Shraddha has already been implanted in our hearts to some extent. We are able to listen. We are able to accept Krishna. So for us, the objective of chanting cannot be relief. Do not keep such a low bar. Do not keep such a low bar, because that's an offense towards the potency of the holy names, especially because we have received so much in terms of instructions. We have received so much in terms of instructions by the behavior of predecessor acharyas. We have received so much by instruction by Shastra. Shastra is full of exemplary activity. Shastra is full of examples of extraordinary activity, exemplary activity. So we have received so much about what is bhakti. We have received so much of an understanding about the goal of life. We have received so much help. So if we have received so much help and we have received all of this, let us not set such a low bar of wanting to solve day-to-day problems through the process of calling upon the holy names. We call upon the holy names with complete dependence on Krishna. Yes, while doing our part. We accept the circumstances, we study the circumstances diligently, we work hard, we put our very best into the system, and then we depend on Krishna for the results. Okay? Our effort is required. We do not use the holy names and equate them as we would in the past, because we all come from cultures, or rather, most of us, or practically every one of us, is from India. And in India, we are used to going to the temple to solve problems. We are used to going and engaging in activity related to the deity for us to be able to be relieved of our problems. We should not cultivate such a practice while chanting the holy names. Now, what do we do to solve problems if we are not at the level where we can simply make a statement saying, you do whatever you want? That is the highest level. That is the highest level which Mahaprabhu is expressing, is the highest level where we can say, you do whatever you want and we are ready to experience anything and everything. So what do you do in the in-between stages between now and then? And how do you ensure that we don't commit this aparadh while calling upon the holy names in the morning? Okay? That is where our acharyas have given us samskaras. That is where this whole concept of Devi Varnashram comes in. Okay? That is where it comes in, where even for Vaishnavas, until we become Vaishnava and to maintain Vaishnavism, we need some kind of a support system which would allow us to experience, some form of relief and some form of forward movement. So Satskriya Saradipika, which is written by Srila Gopala Bhatta Goswami, who is one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, is full of samskaras and processes for us to be able to protect ourselves. So there is samskara, for Garbha Adana. It is not Garbha Dana, it's wrong. It is very wrong to understand and think that, the samskara of impregnation or conceiving is called Garbhadana. No, we don't give donations that way, Garbhadana. It is more Garbha Adana. Adana means conception. So conceiving or conception. Now the Garbha Adana samskara, and then you have, for example, Simanto Nayanam. You have the whole samskara of Vedic weddings. You have samskara of, Upanayanam. These are all processes of 32 different samskaras, which actually are stages in life. Right? Stages in life. And these stages in life are meant so that we are able to keep Krishna in the center and engage in a Vedic process which is karma kanda, because there's certain fruitive activity going on. The objective of Garbhadana, the objective of Simantunayanam is very well defined. It is not pure bhakti. It is karma kanda. But the objective of keeping Krishna in the center while engaging in such protected rituals is what is being given to us by the Vaishnava Acharyas so that we do not deviate. Okay? So we should not equate and keep in our mind that I will chant and I will solve my wealth problem. I will chant and I will solve my health problem. No, don't do that. We will chant to attain pure bhakti. We will chant to be able to serve better. We will chant so that we can, make ourselves available fully to the Guru and Krishna. Have clear objectives about chanting. Solve the so-called problems which do not allow us to move forward and we feel quite pressured through the approved processes given by acharyas in the Samskara Deepikas. Where Haribhakti Vilas, we have Satkriya Saradipika. There are so many different manuals which have been given by our acharyas, by the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Why did they give them? Because in the ashrama, you will have to perform certain rituals so that you can move forward, and those rituals are karma kanda, but then it is mishra. Krishna is there, we surrender to Krishna, we engage in such activity, but that activity cannot be called Shuddha Bhakti. There's a difference. So do not mix the two, is the warning being given in this particular chapter by Srila Haridas Thakur, because that mixture can hurt us. It can hurt us because we will start thinking slowly, steadily, like the Mayavadis, where we equate the chanting of the holy names with materialistic ritual to attain some objective. It is not the objective. We have to understand that the objective of the holy names is to attain Krishna Prema. Don't mix it up. The objective of the holy names is to attain Krishna Prema. The objective of the holy names is to attain the state of consciousness where we can make a statement that you do anything you want, I'm accepting all unconditionally. That statement comes through the process of being able to chant the holy names with complete surrender, with being able to do it nicely, where we are not entangled or in touch with material nature. When someone is not in touch with material nature, they can make such a statement. They're okay. They are okay because they are not in touch with material nature. So there's no question of them wanting to experience the duality of material nature. That is the purpose of attaining Prema Bhakti and being able to surrender to Krishna. That is the purpose of being able to call upon the holy names. Now, I'm also adding one more point. The holy names are fully capable of giving anything and everything. That's a different story. We spoke about it early on. The holy names are fully capable of liberation even when not chanted purely. They're fully capable of offering all the benedictions of life. Because Nijasarva Shakti, all the Shaktis of Lord Gauranga, all the Shaktis of Krishna are fully manifest in the holy names. The holy name is non-different. Namanaminoho abhinatvam. Abhinatvam namanaminoho. There's no difference at all. There's no difference between the holy name and Krishna. The holy name has descended from the spiritual sky. Right? Goloke Premadan, Harinam Sankirtan. It enters into our heart. It destroys ignorance, establishes faith, and it then begins to shine forth and allows us to see who we are. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. The Marjanam, or the Cheta Chitta, the mirror of the heart is being cleansed, and then we are able to see who we are by glancing at the mirror. So the process of the holy name is far higher, or the highest, which is Krishna's lotus feet, the Prema Bhakti of Brajavasis. That is the objective of the holy names. That is the objective of chanting under the care of spiritual master. That is the objective which is being given to us by Mahaprabhu as the Yuga Dharma. Okay? It is not the objective. So we should not keep the objective of wanting to relieve ourselves of suffering in our minds. Thinking, okay, maybe I can chant a few more rounds and the pain will go away. Okay. It will help you chant a few more rounds, but that objective is not such a wonderful objective to have. Let me chant, and then Krishna will somehow or the other manifest money. If I have money problems, then Krishna will make sure that money is available. Those are wrong objectives to have. Why? Because they will distort us. Be very clear as to why we are chanting. Hold on to the beads with very clear objectives of wanting to attain pure devotional service. chant with that objective in mind. For resolving issues, there are rituals. Don't mix the two. Karma Kanda in the Vedic process in a manner which is approved by Acharyas is definitely possible and it's doable and has results which it does offer results. It solves problems. Okay? We have many such processes that can be taken up by Vaishnavas for them to resolve their issues, practicing Vaishnavas, in the sense those who have not attained the platform of Shuddha Bhakti, because at that point in time, they will not have these kind of demands. They will be very happy and accepting everything around them as Krishna's arrangement, immaterial of whether there's anything or there is lot. They have no issues. But until such time, we will have to follow the rules and regulations of Varnashram as accordingly as given by Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami and so on, other acharyas, where we are able to resolve the other issues that are plaguing us. So one has to be able to have clear distinction on the objective of pure bhakti. Complete dependence of Krishna. Complete dependence of Krishna in the process of wanting to serve him unconditionally. So everything is accepted as his mercy. That is the ultimate stage, and that is what Harinam is going to give us, if it has not already done so. That is what Sri Harinam is supposed to give us, because the process of chanting holy names, and ultimately, once we have attained prema, we also experience prema through calling upon the holy names. So the process and the goal are the same. In rituals, we perform the rituals, but the goal is very different. The performance of karmakandic rituals is to attain a certain objective. Do not mix it with calling upon the holy names. Okay? Because this particular mixture can happen because of a lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. And this mixture should not happen. We should have a very clear idea that our acharyas have given samskaras for ensuring that, as much as possible, we engage in samskaras. And there are very clear samskaras. For instance, it is said that you can do some kind of yajna for, health. There is, yajnas for wealth, so on and so forth. There are so many different prescriptions which may be given, which allow the person to experience, or rather move forward in life. But the most important instruction that we receive from the acharyas is to be able to accept the circumstances as Krishna's mercy. And by doing so, we would be able to have realizations that would allow us to move forward. So we should not chant for the purpose of solving our problems. Do not do that. Because the purpose of chanting is to be very clear that we have to attain the lotus feet of Krishna. This Chaturveda Bhajante Mam, that verse is applicable for people who have not received Shraddha in their hearts yet fully. In our case, if you have received Shraddha, if you've come in touch with a spiritual master, you've come in touch with this glorious movement, you've come in touch with Shastra, so many different examples, and we are all serious practitioners, we do not want to put ourselves in the same level as someone who is not there yet. How does this happen? This is seen in the Shastra. Dhruva Maharaj, he left the palace in a huff. And what was his objective? His objective was to be able to sit on his father's lap, or attain the position that his stepbrother had. That was his objective. So he began chanting. He received mercy from Lord Sri Narad Muni. That mercy began to cleanse up his heart, and he began chanting the holy names. And then what was the result of his chanting and such determination? The Lord appeared. The Lord appeared to grant him his desire of wanting, whatever he wanted. But the presence of the Lord automatically allowed him to experience transcendence. And as a consequence, his Shraddha and everything changed, and he did not want the objectives that he started out with. So the point we want to make here is that these objectives of wanting to attain something other than Krishna was done first, but then Krishna appears and he creates the arrangement, or Lord Narayan appears and he creates the arrangement that the person is able to move forward, and his presence creates the arrangement. In our case, the definitions have already been given. The definition has already been given. Anyabhilasha Shunyam, we have heard about it 101 times. Right? We've heard about it. We've heard about the objectives of bhakti. We've heard about the fact that Krishna says, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. We've heard about it a million times. We have heard about Manmanava Madbhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru. So why should we be in confusion? Why should we think that I will solve this problem and that problem and I'll do this and I will do that through the holy names? That is a wretched attitude if knowledge has already been given. We'll call upon the holy names so that we will experience and have the objective of Krishna Bhakti, Prema Bhakti. Okay? If we have material problems and it's insurmountable, then there are other ways for us to be able to move forward, which are bona fide, which will not affect our the main sadhana. Our main sadhana, which is the calling upon of the holy names, even though it's fully capable of giving everything, the goal is not to resolve problems or to be relieved. Okay? We should be very clear about these two lines. We should not be in any confusion. That could be weakness, where we feel overwhelmed. That is perfectly all right. We should feel, if we feel overwhelmed and we go surrender to Krishna, Krishna is going to help. All I wanted to do today was to ensure that from at least from a knowledge perspective, we do not keep the objective of chanting the holy names to be relieved. So we may surrender, saying, Krishna, I accept these circumstances. It is very difficult. It is uncomfortable. I'm calling upon your holy names. Krishna, please help me surrender better so that I'll be able to understand you. That is recommended. Okay? What is not recommended is to set an objective saying, I need this problem to be solved, so I'm calling upon the holy names. There's a distinction. Okay? I hope I was clear. If you have any questions, I would like you to raise them right away, and then I would be able to assist you with whatever you have. So we have a few questions, which is very nice. Okay, let's see this. Okay, there are so many questions. I don't know the order, so I'm just going to pick, and it may not be in the right order, but doesn't matter. I'm going to go from the top. How about when we chant extra rounds for the health of our spiritual masters, spiritual uncles, or our friends and relatives, and also if we chant for our kids so that they can stay in Krishna consciousness? Okay, we have to be very clear. Again, how about if we chant for the health of our spiritual masters? Perfectly all right when we want to say that the connection that we have with Krishna is through the medium of the spiritual master, and as a consequence, we call upon the holy names and we say that we offer some extra rounds so that the benediction given by the spiritual master, what is the benediction? Shraddha. It deepens. And we are able to follow the instructions of the spiritual master fully. All of these are benedictions, and as a consequence, we can call upon the holy names for us to be able to basically have the association of such a personality who has caused such a deep impact in our lives. Nothing wrong with that, but with proper understanding. In most cases, we should always include prayers for the health and well-being of Vaishnavas with the statement that Krishna should do what is best for them, even though we have our own desires to keep them on the planet. Honestly, in some cases, and it happens all the time with mundane situations where the soul lingers on. If they're supposed to leave today, they wouldn't leave today. They might leave 2 months later. They'll continue suffering because there's so much attachment of relatives around them. Because the relatives all around them are constantly desiring that the soul should remain. But the soul is suffering, being caught up in a body which is not functional, in a very sick body which is not functional, completely dependent, sick, and so on and so forth. So what is conducive is for us to always pray that whatever is best may happen. But our desire is to have association, so let the Vaishnav, prolong the presence of the Vaishnav be on the planet so that they could be healthy and they could also be able to offer association and they could be further setting examples for us to follow. Right, now we have Srila Jayapataka Maharaj, extraordinary personality, extraordinary in his activity, right? Because when one sees how difficult it is for him to just perform even basic functions, but yet he somehow or the other manages to travel around the world as long as he could. He was initiating, accepting more responsibility. He was assisting. He was constantly assisting the devotees. But at the same time, he was completely helpless in even taking care of his basic needs, right? Now we want to pray because now we hear that Maharaj is again, in some kind of very serious health situation. We want to pray, but we want to pray in a manner where Lord Narasimha is able to take care of Maharaj in the best possible manner, which is suitable for Maharaj, not so much for us. So I have to have some understanding of what we are asking for. As Vaishnavas, we also have to have that understanding of what we are asking for. Right? Yes, it cannot be one-sided. I want Maharaj to stay, yes, but whatever is best for Maharaj, let it happen. Because in the material situation, it always happens where people, souls linger on and they continue suffering. 2 months more, 3 months more, and it's meaningless because they're almost in a state where they can't function, but then attachment keeps them on the planet. Okay, so is it okay to pray? Yes, and we can do so, but have a clear understanding. Have a clear understanding that that is not the objective of calling upon the holy names. Calling upon the holy names, the objective is to attain unconditional surrender. The more and more we start using chanting for other purposes without fully understanding why we are doing so, the more we could get distracted, and that's where this offense could come about, where we don't want to bring about bhakti and mukti into the process of pure devotional service. We want to be strict with it. So we can offer prayers to Lord Narasimhadev for protection, and so on and so forth. Okay, for welfare of our relatives, for protection and so on. There's nothing wrong with that. Offer prayers. I'm just wanting to make sure that we have this distinction so that we don't get mixed up and get confused. I hope that answered your question. Okay. Do the question related to previous class as well as samskaras, do the performers of samskaras like the priests and the assistants also accept the karma of the person for whom samskaras are performed, even if it is centered around Krishna or associated? Okay, I think there are two parts to this and it is just broken up. Rituals authorized by Satkriya Saradipika versus regular Karma Kanda. Okay. Are there reactions? The answer is yes. There are reactions for the priests who perform this. But the priests are performing this function as a service. So there are reactions to being a part of any subtle process. If the priests themselves are weak in terms of them being, their sadhana being weak, they would have difficulty in sadhana. So that is their function. They have to figure this out. Because now they're playing the role of a via medium for the person's karmic reactions to be removed. So they have to accept a little bit for them to be able to assist. And if they are not pure and if they are not going to be able to move forward, then there would be challenges. There would be challenges. Now, I guess that was the question. Yes. What's the difference between Mayavadis and impersonalists? The difference between Mayavadi and impersonalists, yes. Now, Mayavadi is someone who is also an impersonalist. In other words, he does not believe in the personal form of the Lord as being supreme. But the Mayavadi thinks that the personal form of the Lord is Maya. The Brahmavadi, on the other hand, also feels that he is more attached to Brahmavada, which is Brahman being supreme, the feature of the Lord being accepted as the goal of life. We hear about the Kumara brothers, Srila Sukadev Goswami. They were all Gyanis. So as a consequence, before they came into bhakti through the medium of devotional service or coming in touch with potency, their objective was that the Brahman realization was supreme. Those are Brahmavadis. They never maintained that Krishna's form and activities were not transcendental. They never maintained that Krishna's form is Maya. No, that is the business of Mayavadis. So the difference between them, Brahmavadis and Mayavadis, is Mayavadis believe that Krishna's transcendental activities and form and so on is an illusory, is a part of the illusory energy, while Brahmavadis have objective of attaining Brahman, impersonalism. Both are impersonalists, but the Mayavadi is one who is having a dangerous, corruptive view because he thinks that the activities of the Supreme Lord are Maya, just like his activities. And as a consequence, he equates himself starts thinking that his objective is to attain Krishna. I'm sorry, his objective is to become Krishna, become Shiva. They think, oh, I can become Shiva. Qualitatively, the objective is to become the same as Krishna. Qualitatively, we want to be the same qualitatively so that we could serve him, we could understand what Krishna desires. Quantitatively, no one can become Krishna. No one can become Shiva. Right? So that is the understanding that we have to have. Okay, one more question. Do we need to do rituals or samskara if you're following Krishna consciousness? I understand that we should not follow Krishna consciousness for benefits, but sometimes I hear that if we have to ask, why not ask the Supreme Father? There's a difference. Yes, the answer is that do we need to do rituals and samskaras as a part of being in the ashrams? Yes. It is best to follow rituals and samskaras. But the system of bhakti is not fully dependent on this rituals and samskaras. It is not. The distinction that I wanted to bring about was that understand the objective of bhakti. The objective of bhakti is to be completely free of desires for one thing or the other to happen on this realm. The objective of bhakti is to be completely free of the desire of being liberated or being relieved of suffering. No, that is not the objective of bhakti. Objective of bhakti is Krishna Prema, to be able to love Krishna like his dearmost servants in Vrindavan. So if you want to call upon the holy names, which is the Yuga Dharma, we call upon the holy names with the objective of being able to love Krishna like the residents of Sri Vrindavan. That is our objective. So we want to have very clear thought process on the objective itself. Okay? We have to be clear. Now, are there samskaras which are required? The answer is yes. The reason why we need samskaras is because we have not reached the point of being able to fully accept all and everything as Krishna's arrangement. So it is better to follow the samskaras given in Vedic ritual process to purify ourselves of the tendency, and also being able to bring Krishna into our midst in many different ways and be able to kind of move forward. It is recommended that we follow. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he went to Gaya and he performed the Pindadana or the Shraddha ceremony for his father. That's a part of Vedic rituals. That's a responsibility. He did that. So we do not want to think that we are already above and beyond dharmic principles, but dharmic principles are not the objective of bhakti. We should not think that bhakti is subservient to it, or thinking that we are chanting to attain dharmic principles. No. Morality will come intrinsically if you follow the principle of bhakti. Dharma would automatically take place if you follow the principles of bhakti, because the nature of the soul, which is dharma, eternal duty of the soul, which is the actual definition of dharma, is to serve Krishna. It will automatically come. But we also have to follow the other aspects of it until we are completely ready internally to reach the point of being able to say, Krishna, you may do anything. So we want to be very clear on how to do the rituals. How to do the rituals, how to engage in karma kanda, how to engage in so many different things, and not mix up everything to a point where we can't see any distinction, which is dangerous. The reason why it's dangerous is because we lose sight of objectives, and it becomes an offense, where someone who has received a lot of information comes forth and starts doing things as if he has not received or she has not received information. The help that we have received from our spiritual masters, help that we have received from Srila Prabhupada, is to attain Krishna Bhakti, to attain Prema Bhakti. This is Shuddha Bhakti. It is extraordinarily rare. This rare opportunity cannot be given up. So if you're not ready for complete surrender, do other things, but in alignment with the recommendation of the Acharyas, with clear thoughts of Krishna, I am doing this so that this particular activity will turn out to be auspicious, but it is up to you in terms of what results you want to bestow upon me. Okay? So we want to be clear that the holy names are being chanted for the purpose of complete surrender. We want to be clear about it. That's the point I wanted to make today. Have a distinction. Don't mix things up to such an extent that we can't see what's happening. So, next question is, So Brahmavadis are aware that God is a person and Brahman is his energy, but are attracted to the impersonal form, not personal form. Correct. Correct. That is the idea. What happens to relatives or acquaintances who are chanting the Mahamantra without understanding the true meaning or begging for service to the divine couple? They will make advancement because it is Namabas. They will make advancement. They will make advancement because it is Namabas. It may be Namabas, and then later on they would become qualified for them to be able to chant the pure name if they come in touch with a pure devotee. Okay, that is the distinction. The idea is if you come in touch with someone who has Shuddha Bhakti, that person is capable of giving Shuddha Bhakti. So that is the whole idea. Okay, I think we have addressed all the questions. If there are any more questions, please do feel free to write to us. I know I've received a couple of questions after previous sessions. I'm yet to get to them. I will do so tonight. Um, so thank you very much for encouraging me and being a part of this session. We'll meet again on Monday, and on Monday we will take up the next offense, which is actually a very important offense, being inattentive. Okay, Pramada, we'll talk about being inattentive, and we will go a little deeper into understanding how to combat inattentiveness while calling upon the holy names, which is a big problem. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.